Swipe up, like, scroll, next video, another swipe, new clip. 3 seconds to decide, watch or scroll further. This is precisely what the typical information stream looks like for a modern child today. What once took minutes now fits into seconds. Over the past decade, we have witnessed an unprecedented transformation, from thoughtful reading of long articles to lightning-fast consumption of 15-second TikTok videos. Generation Alpha, children born after 2010, is the first to not know a world without this second-long consumption culture. They don't just adapt to it, they are born into it. Their brains are formed in conditions where information must capture attention instantly, otherwise it simply won't be perceived. This is not just a new media format, it is a fundamental change in how the human brain processes information. We are observing the birth of a fundamentally new type of perception, where evaluation, analysis, and decision-making occur in fractions of a second, almost on an instinctive level. The human brain is one of the most plastic organs on the planet. It constantly reorganizes its neural networks, adapting to the environment. And today, this environment has fundamentally changed. When a Gen Alpha child spends hours watching ultra-short videos, their brain forms a completely new architecture of neural connections. Neurobiological studies show that regular consumption of content lasting 15 to 60 seconds activates specific patterns of brain activity. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and concentration, reorganizes itself for constant attention switching. The dopamine reward system receives microdoses of pleasure from each new clip, forming a kind of addiction to novelty. Neural networks literally reconfigure themselves according to the algorithm. Evaluate, decide, switch. Instead of deep neural pathways responsible for sustained concentration, thousands of small branches are formed, allowing for instantaneous switching between tasks. This is not just a habit, it's a physiological change in the brain. Studies using functional magnetic resonance imaging demonstrate that the brains of children who regularly consume short-form content activate completely different areas when solving tasks requiring concentration. They use more resources to maintain attention, tire faster during monotonous work, but demonstrate astonishing speed in parallel processing of multiple information streams. This is not degradation, but adaptation. The brain optimizes itself for a new informational reality, where the speed of switching is valued, not the depth of immersion. Generation Alpha are the first true digital natives in human history. Born after 2010, these children have never seen a world without smartphones, social media, and short videos. For them, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels are not just entertainment, but a natural habitat. According to UNICEF research, the average child aged 6 to 12 spends up to 3 hours daily on short-form content platforms. Every minute, such a child views 8 to 12 videos, making instant decisions about what is worthy of their attention. Statistics show that 70% of Generation Alpha children begin regularly using a smartphone before reaching the age of 6. By 8 years old, they already have their own social media accounts. By 10, they form unique algorithmic consumption profiles, where the recommendation system so accurately predicts their preferences that the time spent deciding what to watch is reduced to 1.5 seconds. Alpha children don't just consume content, they interact with it fundamentally differently from previous generations. They intuitively understand the language of gestures and visual codes of TikTok, instantly read emotional triggers, and recognize narrative patterns in the first moments of a video. This generation is developing a unique ability for subconscious information sorting. a skill that seemed impossible for the human brain just 10 years ago. Behind every swipe and second of attention lies an entire economic system, invisible to the user. Modern social media platforms are not just technological products, but meticulously engineered mechanisms for capturing attention. Their business model is simple. The longer a user interacts with the platform, the more advertisements can be shown to them. In this economy, attention has become currency, and a fierce battle is being waged for it. Recommendation algorithms operating on short video platforms represent the pinnacle of engagement engineering. They analyze thousands of parameters of user behavior: which videos they linger on, which ones they scroll past, how quickly they switch between clips. Based on this data, a unique content stream is formed, perfectly tailored to the perception threshold of a specific individual. It is noteworthy that these algorithms constantly reduce the cognitive load on the user. If previously a person required conscious effort to select content, now artificial intelligence does it for them. The more precise the algorithms become, the less effort is required from the user. It is enough to passively consume the suggested content. This creates ideal conditions for the formation of addiction to informational microdoses. Each new video is a small surge of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure. The brain quickly adapts to this rhythm, demanding increasingly frequent stimulations. Platforms deliberately shorten video durations, from a minute to 30 seconds, from 30 to 15, to increase the number of these dopamine surges. The economic incentives here are obvious. In 2022, the short video market was valued at $45 billion, with projected growth to $180 billion by 2028. For Generation Alpha, this system becomes not just a source of entertainment, but an architect of cognitive habits, shaping fundamental patterns of information perception. Abstract thinking is one of the greatest achievements of the human mind. The ability to operate with invisible concepts, create multi-layered theories, and see connections between disparate phenomena. All of this requires a special cognitive architecture. But what happens to this architecture in an era of ultra-fast consumption? Research by neuropsychologists from Stanford University reveals a troubling trend. Children who consume more than 2 hours of short-form content daily show a 23% decline in abstract thinking scores compared to a control group. They perform worse on tasks involving categorization, generalization, and identifying hidden patterns. The brain, accustomed to instant visual stimulation, loses its ability to hold complex, multi-layered constructs in working memory. Abstract thinking literally thins out, becoming superficial. Professor of Cognitive Psychology Elizabeth Sparrow notes, "When we deprive the brain of the opportunity for deep immersion in information, we undermine the very foundation for the formation of complex conceptual structures. Instead of depth, breadth develops, the ability to quickly switch between topics, but without a deep understanding of each of them. This is a fundamental transformation of the cognitive landscape, the consequences of which we are only beginning to comprehend." The paradox of the modern digital world is becoming increasingly evident. Our children know more, but understand less. Daily absorbing hundreds of informational fragments, representatives of Generation Alpha, form a special type of erudition, broad, yet strikingly superficial. A 10-year-old child can hold a conversation about black holes, global warming, or the Japanese economy, but their knowledge resembles a thin film stretched over a vast surface. At the slightest pressure, it tears, revealing the emptiness beneath. Research by cognitive psychologists from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology shows alarming statistics. Children who regularly consume short-form content can name twice as many facts on various topics, but perform 60% worse on tasks requiring them to establish causal links between these facts. They know the answers, but don't understand the questions. Information consumed at high speed does not have time to integrate into a holistic worldview. The brain receives fragments, but lacks the time and resources to connect them into a unified system. It's like assembling a puzzle, constantly throwing in new pieces without allowing one to see the emerging picture. As a result, a special type of thinking is formed: mosaic, fragmented, devoid of internal coherence. A child can impress with knowledge of individual facts, but is unable to see deeper patterns. They can quote, but cannot analyze. They can reproduce, but cannot create. This superficial erudition creates a dangerous illusion of competence, both for the child themselves and for the adults around them. It seems that children have become smarter, more educated, more informed. But behind this facade lies a fundamental inability for deep understanding. It's like reading annotations instead of books. You can hold a conversation about dozens of works, but you won't experience a single one. In a world where every like and comment delivers an instant dopamine rush, attention has become the most scarce resource of our time. Children of Generation Alpha live in a reality where feedback must be instantaneous and stimulation constant. Research shows a child accustomed to receiving a reaction to their actions within seconds experiences genuine stress when forced to wait. Their brain is literally not wired for delayed gratification. When a teacher asks them to wait for an answer, when a friend doesn't reply to a message immediately, when the result of an action isn't immediately visible, all of this becomes a source of growing anxiety. Neuropsychologists observe an alarming trend. Children who predominantly consume ultra-short content are 40% more likely to exhibit signs of impulsive behavior and 35% worse at tasks requiring delayed reward. Their emotional system is tuned to constantly receive microdoses of pleasure. Without these regular reinforcements, a state resembling withdrawal syndrome emerges. Irritability, decreased concentration, a search for alternative sources of stimulation. Changes in social skills are particularly concerning. Deep interpersonal relationships require time, patience, and the ability to empathize with another person's state. All of this poorly aligns with the habit of instant evaluation and switching. Real people cannot compete with algorithmically selected content in speed and precision of satisfying emotional needs. Researchers from the University of Toronto have found a direct link between time spent watching short videos and difficulties in forming deep friendships among elementary school-aged children. We live in an age of informational fast food. Like its dietary counterpart, it offers quick satisfaction but deprives us of crucial nutrients for cognitive development. Research from the University of California shows children who regularly consume content shorter than 30 seconds are 42% more likely to exhibit signs of fragmented thinking, an inability to hold complex ideas in their field of attention, build multi-stage logical chains, or see the complete picture of a phenomenon. Clip thinking is not just a metaphor, but a real cognitive shift. The brain, accustomed to constant changes in stimuli, loses its ability for sustained concentration. Neuropsychology professor Michael Posner notes an alarming correlation. Each additional hour spent watching short videos reduces the ability for deep analysis by 18%. This directly affects academic results. A longitudinal study encompassing 5,000 school children aged 8 to 14 revealed a stable link between a preference for ultra-short content and a decline in academic performance in subjects requiring analytical thinking, mathematics, physics, literature. An even more alarming trend is the formation of a habit of superficial information scanning. Children literally skim the surface of texts and videos, snatching keywords and vivid images, but ignoring context, nuances, and cause and effect relationships. They learn to recognize but not to understand, to identify but not to interpret, to memorize but not to comprehend. This creates an illusion of competence despite a fundamental misunderstanding of the material. The modern educational system finds itself at a crossroads. On the one hand, digital reality demands adaptation. Schools and universities cannot ignore the altered cognitive patterns of students. On the other hand, education is precisely tasked with forming fundamental thinking skills that will remain in demand regardless of technological trends. This conflict has given rise to two opposing approaches within the pedagogical community. The first, adaptive, proposes transforming educational content to suit new perception formats. Learning materials are broken down into micro-modules lasting 3 to 5 minutes. Information is presented in a visualized form, and assimilation is assessed through short interactive tests. This approach has already been implemented in hundreds of educational applications, where complex subjects are broken down into easily digestible information snacks. The second approach, contrasting, deliberately creates an educational environment opposite to the clip format. Schools operating within this paradigm introduce practices of extended reading, slow writing, and deep immersion in topics. Some even practice digital detoxes, periods of complete abstinence from electronic devices in the educational process. The most successful models prove to be hybrid ones, finding a balance between digital reality and traditional cognitive practices. In such schools, short informational blocks alternate with extended sessions of deep work. Digital tools are used selectively, where they genuinely enhance the educational process rather than simply making it more entertaining. In the world of the endless information race, a new cultural trend emerges: digital deceleration. This is not just a rejection of technology, but a conscious approach to information consumption. Similar to the slow food movement, which opposes fast food, digital deceleration practices create an alternative to the information fast food that nourishes the minds of modern children. The essence of this approach is simple. Quality is more important than quantity. Depth is more valuable than breadth. Reflection is more significant than reaction. Parents and educators worldwide are beginning to integrate these principles into the daily lives of the digital generation. One effective method is the practice of deep reading. By dedicating just 20 minutes a day to unhurried reading of a physical book without distractions, one can significantly strengthen the neural connections responsible for sustained concentration. Research shows that after a month of such training, a child's ability to deeply immerse themselves in a text increases by 37%. Another effective technique is slow discussions. Instead of quick reactions and instant evaluations, children are taught to formulate elaborate thoughts, ask clarifying questions, and listen to their interlocutor to the end. Such conversations can revolve around a watched film, a read book, or even a short video from social media. The main thing is to shift from a consumption mode to a reflection mode. Many schools are implementing digital minimization practices, a conscious limitation of information noise. This is not a complete rejection of gadgets, but their use for a specific purpose, rather than for mindless time filling. Children learn to ask themselves, "Why am I picking up my smartphone right now?" And if the answer is unclear, to find alternative activities. Information resilience is not just a trendy term from psychology, but a key survival skill in the digital world of the 21st century. Just as physical resilience allows the body to recover after strain, information resilience gives the brain the ability to flexibly switch between different modes of perception. This is cognitive plasticity of a new order, the ability to consciously choose between rapid scanning and deep immersion, depending on the context and goal. Children who possess this quality do not become hostages to any single mode. They are masters of informational switching. Neuropsychologist Adele Diamond compares this to bilingualism, where the brain freely transitions between languages without losing meaning. Such children can quickly scroll through a TikTok feed and a minute later immerse themselves in reading a complex text, maintaining effectiveness in both modes. The key to developing information resilience is metacognition, the ability to be aware of one's own thought processes. When a child understands how their attention works, how neural connections are formed and broken, they gain control over their cognitive landscape. Simple practices for developing metacognitive skills, keeping a media consumption diary, discussing strategies for reading complex texts, analyzing one's own emotional reactions to content, form the foundation of information resilience. This is not a battle against technology, but learning the art of navigating the information ocean, where there is room for both rapid surfing on the waves of short videos and deep sea diving into books, articles, and documentaries. We stand on the threshold of a new cognitive era. Our children don't just consume information differently, they think differently. And now, as the first generation of true digital natives begins to come of age, we can only speculate about what their cognitive future will look like. One thing is certain: we cannot afford to be mere observers of this evolution. We must become its architects. A healthy information diet for Generation Alpha is not just about limiting screen time. It's about creating a balanced cognitive diet where there's room for both fast and slow thinking, where digital surfing is balanced by deep immersion, where technology serves to amplify human potential, not replace it. 3 fundamental principles must underpin this diet. The first is awareness. Children must understand how their attention works, how algorithms manipulate their choices, how neural connections are formed and broken. The second is diversity. The brain, like the body, needs different types of activity. The third is balance. Neither complete rejection of technology nor complete immersion in it will yield optimal results. Only in the equilibrium between the digital and analog worlds is a sustainable cognitive ecosystem born. Responsibility for creating this ecosystem rests on 3 pillars of society. Tech companies must shift from a model of maximizing engagement to a model of maximizing user well-being. Educational institutions are called upon to become laboratories of a new cognitive culture, where children learn not only to consume information, but also to manage their attention. Parents, in turn, become the child's first guides in the world of the digital jungle. The future of human thought is being created today, in every second of a child's interaction with the information flow, and it depends on us whether this future will be an era of cognitive flourishing or cognitive decline.